Hello, NABJ. My name is Candace Head. I'm with the PR Student Project team. I am with Shawn right now. He is the founder and CEO of Campaign for Black Male Achievement. So it was founded in 2008. Thank you for joining us, Shawn.
Pleasure to be here, and we're participating in this year's conference. We just held a really fantastic workshop with movement leaders and talking about the Campaign for Black Male Achievement, which is a national membership organization of about 5,000 individual leaders and a little over 3,000 organizations that are working to improve the life outcomes of black men and boys across a number of issue areas throughout the United States. And we basically focus on building their infrastructure, supporting their strategic communications, their field building, and helping to network and connect leaders from all across the country. And so it's been a really growing movement since we launched it in 2008. And are beginning to see successes and more philanthropic investments in this movement. So really excited and here to carry and elevate the message of the Campaign for Black Male Achievement.
That sounds amazing. So with your campaign that was started in 2008, can you walk us through kind of the process of the mission and why the organization was founded?
Sure. So part of the genesis of the organization being started actually started with a New York Times cover story way back in March 2006, and on the cover of the New York Times top fold left column, you can't get better real estate than that, there was an article with the headline, "The Plight of Black Men Deepens," and it really elevated a lot of the data and disparities that black men and boys were facing in the United States. The foundation, called the Open Society Foundation, really was and still is about social, racial justice and investing in marginalized communities. And so the conversation at the foundation was, how come we're not, as a foundation, Open Society Foundations, investing in this issue? And the dialogue at the time was, believe it or not, Open Society Foundations was investing a lot in criminal justice reform. And many folks, both on the board and on staff, said, well, we're investing in black men and boys, look at our criminal justice reform. The real shift was, this was an opportunity for the foundation to invest in the front end, investing in education, investing in mentoring, investing in policy change and organizing, and not waiting for black men and boys to get into the criminal justice system. So we launched in 2008. It was it was supposed to be a 3-year campaign, like we were going to solve a centuries-long issue in 3 years. And we managed to take those term limits off, scale up our strategies and get more investments from the foundations. And I began to say, you know what, we don't need a campaign for black male achievement. What we really need is something like a corporation for black male achievement, an endowed philanthropic enterprise, Candace, that could lean into this issue for the long haul. We didn't get here overnight when we look at the systemic and structural racism of the United States, and we weren't going to solve this issue in a 3-5 year grant-making cycle.
Right.
So we managed to spin off the campaign into an independent entity in 2015. So now we're an independent 501c3, focusing on capacity building, network building, and strategic communications to elevate the field of black male achievement.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So I understand in 2014, you all helped partner with the White House in order to create the My Brother's Keeper initiative. Can you kind of talk about that process?
Sure. And actually, the conversation began in 2013 in what I like to call the summer of the verdict and the speech. And the summer of the verdict and the speech first started with the not guilty verdict of George Zimmerman with the death of Trayvon Martin. A week later, in the press room of the White House, the president made an impromptu speech and challenged the nation to find a better way that we as a nation viewed and valued and invested in black men and boys. And that was the beginning of the My Brother's Keeper conversation. Myself and my colleague Rashid Shabazz, 3 days later, we were in the West Wing of the White House having a conversation because the White House staff had no idea that the president was going to make this speech. And he said some things in this speech that many of us had been waiting for him to say. He said things like, if Trayvon Martin was armed, could he have stood his ground, referring to the stand your ground laws in certain states. And so from that summer and that July speech, there was a series of meetings. There was a meeting in the Roosevelt Room in the White House with about 12 foundation leaders when the president decided that he was going to launch My Brother's Keeper initiative. And it was eventually launched in February of 2014. And so that was just one of many things that the Campaign for Black Male Achievement helped to seed and catalyze in the field over the last 8 years.
Wow. So you're a growing organization, you have the ears of the White House. What's next?
So what's next is really, as I said earlier, developing this corporation for Black male achievement. I think that no one entity is going to solve this problem. Government cannot do it alone, philanthropy cannot do it alone, the not-for-profit sector cannot do it alone. So what's next is CBMA sees itself as a connector of all of these sectors, especially the private sector. And so we are connecting all of those sectors, and we're also identifying some core cities where we are going deeper in, and we've identified a model of what we're calling high school excellence. Because it's one thing to have a lot of conversations, to do a lot of movement building, but if we don't change the data, if we don't start changing outcomes, when you look at the nation, Black boys are reading at 20% across the nation at grade level, when they're reading at grade level. Until we start changing data like that, employment rates, the wealth creation, high school graduation rates, then we begin to have impact. So that's why we continue to intersect the movement building and the field building. So that's what's next.
Wow. So how can we get involved and how can we help push this organization further and make it grow?
So you're already involved, we're here, we've partnered, we're made a presentation, but I would encourage NABJ and its membership to learn more about the Campaign for Black Male Achievement. So much of our work partners with the arts and culture and publishing and journalism field. I would say that journalists can be more proactive with portraying Black men and boys in their full humanity and positive light. And we do a number of events. We would love to have NABJ as one of our organizational partners. Our website is blackmaleachievement.org, and you should become a member. Become a member, you get connected with our information and our resources, and we find other ways that we can partner.
That sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Shawn.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of the conference.
Okay, thank you.